Okay, friends, thank you for your patience. Is everybody's fingers crossed? Are everybody's fingers crossed? My name's Christiana Gaudet. I am hopefully here to teach a class called The Spectrum of a Tarot Card. But as many of you know, we've been having some significant streaming issues. The good news is the cable guy was here today, and they think they've found the problem, but it's not necessarily fixed. So we're going to go. We're going to do this. And I promise you, if we cannot do this class, if we're not here for an hour, I will come back and do it again. So you will get this information. And I thank you all so much for your patience with this situation. I appreciate you all so very much. And of course, a special shout out to the members, the moderators, and the subscribers over on YouTube, the subscribers on Twitch, everyone who makes what we do here work. So let's get on over to CardCam. So the name of the class today is The Spectrum of a Tarot Card, because we all know that a card can mean a lot of different things, but we also know that there must be some place where the cards hold together. There has to be some way that it all comes together. Now, Jenna Perkins, first of all, happy birthday, Jenna Perkins. Thank you for spending some time with us. When we were doing our test stream this morning, we actually died when I was reading for you. And this was the card. So I thought we would just start with this card. This was the card I drew for Jenna's birthday. And I think this is an amazing way for us to start this class and really talk about this, how do I want to say? What we're talking about here is really a few things. It's understanding what it means when we say a card can mean a lot of different things, but it can't mean just anything. Right? And we want to talk about what causes us to think what we think and say what we say when we see a particular card. Welcome, Bernadette, new here. So glad that you're here. Welcome, welcome. So let's just dive in with the Hermit. And I think this is going to be a learn by doing class. So this will be our first example. Mediha Ness, so good to see you. I've had the Four of Pentacles reversed come up as job loss. I would have imagined Five of Pentacles for it, but both would do the job. Sad pun. Yeah, no, absolutely. Absolutely. And I've had the Two of Pentacles come up for breast cancer. I mean, so many things can happen in the moment. So we were reading this, first of all, okay, this is the context of this card. The context was on Jenna's birthday. This is Jenna Perkins, a member here. On Jenna's birthday, this is the card that came up for her. And of course, and I got cut off just as I was saying, well, you know, one thing that is true about this card is it is about age. And then, right, we're celebrating a woman's birthday, and the first thing I do is say, oh, look, the Hermit must mean you're old. Right. Obviously, that was not where I was going. Where I was going was the idea of the birthday being a great time to celebrate the wisdom gained over time. But imagine if this were a circumstance where this card had not come up for a birthday, but had come up instead for a young woman who was dating someone and wanted to know if this was going to be a good relationship. My thought would be, A, is this person much, much older? But also, is this person really capable of a relationship? Because indeed they are the Hermit. So, Jenna Perkins, I love that. Perfect. So Jeannie Mnuchin has done exactly what I want people to do. And what I'd like everyone to do is if you have a thought, keywords, key phrases, thoughts about the Hermit, go ahead and chat them in. There are no wrong answers. I often joke that when we talk about the spectrum of a tarot card, a card can mean you're going to be late for work, your grandmother, or a head of cabbage, right? And the key is, right, when you see all of these different meanings, the question is, where do they all hold together? They all have to hold together somewhere. And so in understanding the spectrum of a tarot card, we have to understand where they hold together and then how the meanings can fan out from that. So get those in. Nicholas is laughing at the head of cabbage, right? Right. That's probably more Lenormand than tarot, but you know what I mean, right? And Bernadette, welcome. So I do a lot of live reading streams. This is not that. This is specifically a class on tarot reading, and more specifically than that, understanding how each card can have many meanings and how do we figure out what those meanings are. So if you have questions about that, by all means, sure. But generally, if you see me up here, 9 times out of 10, I am doing readings. So, yes. Okay, hey, Marion K. Tarot, so good to see you. All right, here we are. We are putting in meanings for the Hermit. Is this a class about the Hermit? It's not, but it is a class about the contexts of how we understand all of the things a card can mean. And we're using the Hermit as an example because this is the card I pulled for Jenna Perkins' birthday. All right. Didn't know you're going to be the star of the show today, Jenna, did you? All right. Here we go. Jeannie says, Hermit, a lone figure lighting the way with wisdom. All right. Sky Key, good to see you. Sky Key says, serenity. Mediha Ness, have some beer made by monks. You know, that was really smart. That was really, really, really smart. Now, would you ever think about drunkenness or having a beer with the Hermit generally? No. But in this context, if someone was like, hey, I'm heading out to this brewery that's a monastery, want to go? This card would say, heck yes, I do. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, let's see what else we got. Sarah F., so good to see you, and thank you for your kind words. Sarah says, so happy the technical issues should be fixed soon. Your knowledge is so valuable. Well, thank you, and thank you for your patience with this. It's been a slog, there's no doubt. And Sarah says, about the Hermit, solitude, introspection, and learning. Okay, very good. TJ and GA sees self-care here. Oh, Marion K. Tarot, intellectual isolation. I hate to do this to you, but that fascinates me. Would you care to say more? Care to say more, Marion? Audrey, Hermit, solitude and or loneliness, withdrawal, introspection, trusting yourself. Bernadette, the Hermit can often be misunderstood. I can be a hermit. I'm an introvert. I have to pull back and recharge. You know, I heard a funny thing about introverts. For all of you, Bernadette and everyone else who identifies as an introvert, this is what I heard about introverts. Tell me if you think this is true. An introvert and an extrovert have everything in common except one thing. An introvert doesn't like small talk. What do you think? Hey, Jill. Over on Instagram, so good to see you. The Hermit, she is learning who she is and on the path to being the person she's meant to be. I love that. Oh, Sky Key, the self-care really hits. Love thinking about the Hermit like this. Got it. Okay, let me see some more here. Thanks everyone for playing along. Barbie, I'm an outgoing introvert. And AM, thank you for doing this class. Well, thank you for being here. I really like to do classes on this channel, and there's a lot in replay that you can watch, and there'll be a lot going forward as well. And Barbie agrees, hate small talk with a passion. Bernadette says, I agree. As an introvert, small talk bores me. And AM says, I despise small talk, but I am good at it. Okay, Trey, good to see you. In numerology, the 9 is associated with deep passion and focus that then decays to be rejuvenated later. Do you see that in the Hermit? Huh. Yeah, I do. And we can talk about that. That's kind of brilliant. Christina, there is wisdom in listening to the silence. That comes from Everyday Witch. Audrey says the Hermit is related to Virgo and therefore earthy. Barbie, I also think of the light within, finding answers within yourself and not from external forces. Yeah, I love that. And Barbie also says Hermit, depending on the position, could be a need for introspection, a need to be with oneself, solitude. Jen calls the Hermit the seeker. I like that. Okay. And, Sarah, here you go. Okay. Sarah's going to be the exception that proves the rule or whatever that is. I consider myself an introvert, but I love talking about the weather. It's a safe topic. Yeah, there is that. Okay. Marion, the Hermit is Virgo, ruled by Mercury. Oh, this is it. This is because Marion said a really interesting thing. And if you don't know Marion K. Tarot, she says a lot of interesting things. Definitely follow her channel and consider attending her conference in Scotland coming up this spring. All right. AM, remember the Hermit is a cookie. Yeah, it's a fun thing to bring. If you ever go to a tarot potluck and don't know what to bring, Hermit cookies will work. Okay, here it is. Marion, the Hermit is Virgo, ruled by Mercury. Sometimes if you have an intellectual belief and are surrounded by less intellectual people, then it can feel isolating. You know, that happens to a lot of tarot people, I think, because we all sort of speak a language that the rest of the world doesn't speak, and we see things that maybe other people do not see, and that can feel isolating. You're absolutely right. That's so smart. About being an introvert, baby cakes. For me, being an introvert needs to recharge after dealing with people. I like small talk, but I also like to be alone. I am both introvert and extrovert, probably. Yeah, I'm probably both. Okay. Bernadette, the Hermit is holding a light up high and shining. Is he going to a cave or somewhere dark? That is so interesting. Rebecca, I'm a Virgo sun sign, but have learned that I see much more in line with my rising sign, which is Scorpio. Gotcha. All right. So let me tell you, and thank you everyone for participating in this. Let me tell you some fun facts about the Hermit by way of history. And when we do tarot study, some of the ways we are able to go deeply into a card, and we've seen it happen already here. Trey brought us to numerology. Marion brought us to astrology. These are ways of going into the card, but you don't necessarily need that. Others are looking at the picture and saying, okay, what does this feel like? And that's a legitimate way to read. I will tell you that there are very good readers who have never studied a meaning in their lives. They use the deck completely intuitively, and they do so successfully. And you can do that. I prefer the idea of study and intuition together. And so, by way of tarot study, there are a couple of ways that we can learn more about a card, even beyond just reading more books. And I'm all for reading more books, watching more videos. But there are other ways. And one way is to look at the history. What is the history of the card? And the Hermit has a particularly interesting history. We talk a lot about the lamp, and we recognize the Mogan David that is in the lamp. However, the first Hermit did not have a lantern at all. Sky Key, it's a cosmic bug zapper. I love this. A cosmic bug zapper. That's so fun. But imagine a reading where someone's question is, my goodness, I'm going to have an outdoor wedding in my backyard, but we have a terrible mosquito problem. What do we do? This card came up. We might say, this is exactly what you need. That bug zapper. Absolutely. So like there may be ways that would absolutely happen in a reading. That is part of how we understand how tarot works. What you get off the picture may be really appropriate. But let's go further. Originally, this was not a lantern. It was an hourglass. This is Father Time. And when we think about the Hermit as Father Time, that brings up a lot. It brings up the concept of patience. It's how we know he is old. He's an old man. This is the archetype of the old man. We will see him in just a few weeks at New Year's Eve. He's going to come crawling out with his cane and be replaced by the New Year baby. Oh, Nicholas, I mix up the numbers for the Hermit and the Moon sometimes. Well, that's because they're the same number. The Moon being card 18, 1 plus 8 is 9. Numerologically, they are the same. Sarah says the Hermit is looking for something, whether questions or answers or new friends. They're moving forward, even if alone. Oh, Rebecca, as a Virgo, I do relate to the Hermit a great deal. I use hermiting as a verb. And this, you know, if it came up and you were saying, okay, I'm going to do some hermiting. And so what is another way we understand what a card might mean? Simply by the name. The name can be very helpful. Now, granted, the Hermit is going to be a lot more helpful than the Three of Swords as a name. Oh, Nicholas, along with the strength being 8 and a number of Mercury, makes sense. Makes sense. Oh, did we just blow your mind, Sky Key? Good, good, good. That's what we're here to do. Yay, 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 yay. Sarah, not all who wander are lost. I love that. Okay, so how did the hourglass turn into a lantern? It was replaced by a candle, but at that time, candles were used as timekeepers. I don't know when, and maybe somebody else here knows this answer. I don't know when the Hermit officially started holding a lantern. What year, what deck, I'm not sure. But by the time 1910 came around and this deck was published, here we have a lantern. And I remember reading Eden Gray, that was my first tarot book, and she said he holds the lamp of wisdom for all to see. There it is. Ness, I like that the Hermit is looking for answers, and depending on what direction you use for past or future and the card he's facing. So what you're saying, if you use directionality, so that's another clue, right? Directionality is not something I use, but absolutely worth talking about it because so many people do. So imagine then, using directionality, that the Hermit shows up facing the Five of Cups reversed. So if we, using directionality, suggest that this is the past, the Hermit may be shining a light on this energy from the past. Oh, Audrey, you are so awesome. The lantern emerged in the 16th century. Well done. Well done. Thank you, thank you, thank you. All right. So when we think about, I've asked you all to share some keywords for this card. And a lot of you came to the spectrum of loneliness versus solitude. And that's a really good example of a spectrum, because it might be, oh my gosh, I'm really lonely. It might be, I am so happy in my own company, leave me the heck alone. It might be, I'm writing my PhD dissertation, so as much as I would like to go to the party with you, I'm staying in tonight. How do we know the difference? And I think the first thing is to recognize. I think the first thing was to recognize that it can mean many things. And I think in a reading, a few things can happen. Sometimes you look at a card and you're like, okay, I know exactly what that is. And you would defend your interpretation, without question. I know exactly what that is. Other times you're looking at the card and you're like, well, it could be this, it could be that, it could be the other thing. So we're going to talk about techniques around that second situation. And may I please get a show of hands of people who have found themselves reading for themselves, reading for someone else casually, reading for someone else professionally, where you're like, okay, I know 6 things this card means, but I have no idea what it means here today. Show of hands, how many people have ever been in that situation? It happens, and it doesn't mean you're a bad reader. Let me know. I will tell you what to do about it. AM, yes, you're absolutely right. There was such a thing as a candle clock. That's what this was. Candles were used to tell time. Exactly. And Nicholas has the hand up. Absolutely. Rebecca sees in this card meditation and retreat. Sure. And AM says, yes, have to look at context. Context is so incredibly important. So what are the things that determine context? The question determines context. And we talked about 2 different things. Should I date this guy, or what does this mean on your birthday, right? 2 different things completely. But then there's also, what if it's like this? And whether or not you work with reversals, and there's no law saying you have to, you will always read. Okay, what do reversals do? Reversals show us dignity. When a card is reversed, it is ill-dignified. When a card is reversed, it is poorly aspected. Now, if you don't use reversals, what might cause you to believe that this card is ill-dignified? It might be the way you feel about it. It might be the context of the question, like, will I have fun at the party? Maybe not. Now, please bear in mind that when we talk about an ill dignity or a poor aspect, it doesn't necessarily mean bad. It doesn't necessarily mean the opposite. It could put it in the past. It could put it in the future. It could change the meaning completely. For example, should I go to the party? No. Should I go to the party? Yes. How else would you do that if you weren't working with reversals? Should I go to the party? No. Don't go to the party. Should I go to the party? Yeah, maybe there's good reason to go. Should I go to the party? Yeah, you already got gas in the car. You might as well. Should I go to the party? Yeah, you might meet someone really nice. So cards surrounding also help us know how to interpret the card. All right, let's see what we got here. Ness, by the time I figured out what the hermit was saying, it was too late. We had lost an important item. Hermit kept coming up. It was in the safe. That's so interesting. And you know what else is interesting about that story, Ness? You will never see that card the same way again. You will always remember that the hermit might come up in that, I'm looking for something, this concept of the seeker, looking for a lost object and finding a lost object. That adds to your own sense of the card. And this is why. The more you work with your cards, the more readings you do, the better reader you will be, because the more you experience the cards, the more they tell you what they mean to you, and you won't forget that. You will never forget that. Let's see. Marion, a couple of times, but I ignored them, and on both occasions, the cards turned out to be something the clients were keeping a secret about. Okay. Sky Key, I love thinking about the hourglass being a figure 8, and that's like they're watching the 2 of coins, their own choices of a lifetime flashes within the lantern. That's fun. I like that. Rebecca, I see your point with reversals. You made that point many months ago. When reading upright, like you say, you have the job of figuring out where the spectrum of meaning a card falls. Same with reversals. No, there is no difference from my perspective. You have that same responsibility. The reversal only says you've got to take that into account in the interpretation. It does not necessarily. No, you're on the right topic, Rebecca. You're absolutely on the right topic. It is not necessarily going to be a shadow or an internal. Like what I'm going to say is when reading reversals, you're best, I think, not to have well, for me, reversals are always the shadow, or for me, reversals are always the opposite. It can mean anything. The reversal can mean anything. You just have to take it into account. That's what I would say. I could never figure out people ignoring reversals. Well, if you come from the Crowley tradition, you're going to use elemental dignities, which is something I can't teach you. But some people do not use elemental dignities or reversals. How are those people determining dignity? Just like I showed you, by the surrounding cards and how they feel about the card in the moment. For example, let me give you a good example here. Where do I want to go? Let's see. I am looking for a good example. It's one of the reasons I like the weight deck so much, is that the people's facial expressions tend to be very neutral. So let's say with this card, in my reading at 10 a.m., I might look at this guy and see on his face a really benevolent expression. And I'm going to say, okay, you need to seek a very helpful authority figure. Suppose in my noon session, this card comes up again, and I look at it and it feels scowly. It doesn't feel positive. It doesn't feel warm. I'm going to say, watch out for people pretending to be authorities when they're really not. So I like a deck where the facial expressions either are very clear to the card or are very neutral so they can be evocative. So how you feel about the card in the reading is what will allow you to determine dignity if you're not using reversals or elemental dignities. Oh, I've been reading a book on tableau reading. Are you reading Maria's book? I just got Maria's book. It's sitting right over there. Is that the one you're reading? I'm so excited about that. I'm just learning this, but apparently they do not use reversals here. The position determines whether positive or negative, but I'm going to argue that's different. That's different because reversal does not necessarily determine positive or negative. Right? I feel like with reversals, we have been so trained by idiots on the internet to have this blanket thought about reversals. And I think we have to get our heads out of that. But that's, I think, especially true, Rebecca, for the tableau with Lenormand as well, for sure. Okay. Oh, yes. Yes, you got it, Rebecca. So I am seeing how perhaps using reversals might make it somewhat easier. Yes. To me, it does, because I don't have to guess. This, and in this case, like this is negative to me versus this, which is more positive, but depending. I mean, if the question is, where do my problems stem from? It's your family. If the question is, where do my problems stem from? It's still your family. Like, I probably wouldn't say anything more than that. So sometimes the reversals don't, if the context of the question is such that determines it, the reversal doesn't matter as much to me, if that makes sense. Nicholas, Knight of Cups reversed is still good, just inertia as I see it. Yeah, that can make sense. Absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. What about not recommended versus negative? I think what I'm resisting and would love for you to resist is anything that gives you a blanket meaning for all 78 reversals. And let me show you why that is. This is not recommended. And if you have to choose, this would be better, right? Sky Key, stop reading my mind, ma'am. That's what I'm here for. This definitely not recommended, this better, right? So sometimes reversals make things better. Sometimes they make them like, okay, here, let's play with the world. In fact, let's have this be the next card that we play with, because this is a fun one to play with keywords, and then we'll play with the reversal as well. Oh, you're reading the one by Tony. Gotcha. That's the one that came out first. Understood. But you have Maria's book on your Kindle. Yay. So happy. So happy. Perfect. Okay. So, you know what I want from you now? I want keywords for the world. And while you give me those keywords, I'm going to tell you a little bit of history on this card and talk a little bit about the symbols. And then we'll also talk about another kind of study that helps us get better at understanding the idea of the spectrum of a tarot card. So give me your keywords and phrases for the world. AM, I love this, totality. That's good. It's such a good word anyway. That's very good. TJ, my OCD doesn't like cards upside down. I'll always turn them upright. I'm probably limiting myself with reversal meanings. Maybe. Rebecca, the words she used were auspicious and inauspicious. Yeah. And, I think it's important to remember, like, Tony comes from, and this is an interesting thing too, like, Tony uses Kipper and Lenormand as well as she uses tarot. And with Lenormand, there is definitely positive and negative. Like, that is a very real thing. Some cards are positive, some cards are negative, some cards are neutral. And that is ever and always so it shall be, world without end, amen. That's how that is. So there it would be. Okay, here we go. Ooh, Marion. I love this. Marion about the world says portal. I love that so much. And let's see. Okay. Kathy, completion. And that's really a good one too, right? Like, did you finish writing your book? Yes, it's done. Manuscript is done. Did you finish writing your book? I have not. Yeah, there it is. I'm still learning Lenormand. Yeah, me too. And it's a whole different mindset. And now I have a Kipper deck I have to try to figure out. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, Ness, Mediha Ness. I think people look for a definite, answer, and mostly we're supposed to think it over. Like, reversed, is it the negative of, or is it blocked? It may be or it may not be. Like, you have to trust yourself. Here's the bottom line. You have to trust yourself that in each moment, when the card comes up in a reversed way or not reversed, you will look at it with fresh eyes each time you look at it. That's the thing. Like whenever we catch ourselves saying, I always see this card this way, or when this card is reversed, I always see it this way. As soon as we have the word always when we're talking about a card, I feel like we're limiting ourselves because these cards can be different each and every time. Trey, I feel called out by that world reversed interpretation. Yeah, I was called myself out too. Interesting. AM, outcome is up to your actions. That's an interesting thought. Sure. Hey, call me your daddy over on Twitch. This is a class. We're not doing readings, but thanks for being here. And please feel free to stick around. We're talking about all the different things a tarot card can mean and how we figure out what it actually means in a reading. Oh, I love this. Trey, the world is the big picture. I see that a lot. Like, do not get into the weeds. Do not get into the minutia. See the big picture. I also see the world to talk about global travel, world travel, globalism. Oh, cool, Rebecca. You got a grand tableau mat. That is so cool. I love that. Yeah, very macro. Agree. Oh gosh, Nicholas, especially when you try gambling on teams and the cards start acting different. Yeah, that can be hard. Yep, I understand completely. Okay, here we go. Marion. The world is Saturn in Hellenistic astrology. Saturn was considered the end of this world, and the portal was a gateway to the heavens and the afterlife. So, a little history on the image. The wreath is actually the holy yoni. So in other words, what we're witnessing here is a birth. So when Marion says portal, absolutely. This is someone coming out of the feminine opening to be born into the new world. These characters, we see these characters on the Wheel of Fortune as well, only they're writing books. These are the four evangelists, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John. They are writing their gospels in the Wheel of Fortune. Now their gospels are out in the world. They also can represent the four elements and the four fixed signs of the zodiac. TJ, I love this. The world is full of opportunities and new timelines. Trey, that's interesting. I kept getting the world reversed just before COVID. And sometimes things can be very literal, like talking about interpreting based on the name of the card. Literally, what is this? Your world has been turned upside down. And what happened when we had a global pandemic? The world was turned upside down. Absolutely. GM, is your baseline meaning of a card the Rider-Waite, even if the imagery of the deck you are using is very different? Man, I should pay you for that, because that's really where I wanted to go next. Because yes, very famously, I am a Waite reader. I use Waite decks primarily, not just these images, but decks that are inspired by the images of Waite and Smith. Now, but do the meanings I use match Waite's pictorial key to the tarot? They do not. I have really, over time, come up with keywords for these cards based on numerous authors, based on classes I've taken, based on my own interpretations, but they are very Waite-oriented versus Crowley. Now, do I use Crowley keywords? Oh, I do when I want to. Absolutely. Oh, Nicholas, when the world is upright, things are tight but workable. So, hey, I'm very hard to open the oyster. So, let's play a game before we move forward. Let's play a game. We're going to do a couple of different questions. Oh, good call, Kathy. I only just realized that the legs are in the same position in both the World and the Hanged Man. Yes. And that is important. And somehow it is related to Saturn. I can tell you that. I think. Marion, check me on that. I think it is. All right. So let's play with this so we can see the spectrum of this card. Question. Will my son get into his first choice college? You pull one card, it's the World, yes or no. I would say yes. Completion, it's your world, you're going there. Maybe you would say no. I mean, there is no right answer here. It's how you feel about it. Okay, next question. Your cousin asks to borrow a sum of money. Do you lend it or not? I would say you can, but do not necessarily expect to get it back. The World is the end of the road. You may not get it back. Oh, interesting, Trey. I could also say maybe he needs to consider all of his options because of the big picture aspect of the World. Yeah, that's good. That's good. Oh, Sky Key, you are so kind. So much gratitude to be able to be here and learn, expand my perspectives. Yeah, that's what we are all about. Oh, AM, I love Hanson Roberts too. I totally do. And again, very weight. It is literally a weight clone. Absolutely. Marion, I did a reading for a pregnant woman and the World jumped out of my deck and I suggest she get checked because I had a feeling the baby was breached. Yeah, that makes so much sense. So much sense. So what is, and we've started talking about it already. What is another way? What is another way to really understand the spectrum of a tarot card? The practice that we call comparative tarot. This is the original Gilded Tarot by Ciro Marchetti from Llewellyn. So if you look at the same card from more than one deck, you can learn some things. So let's see. Let me find a card for us to look at. Oh, yes. Let us look at the Tower. Let us. And go ahead and tell me what you think about this Tower. What do you think about this Tower? Let me know. And I'm going to go find another Tower to compare it to, because Lord knows you can't have too many towers. Let me find another Tower. There you go. Now, these are pretty similar as images. Not every time we do this will they be similar. Would you interpret these two cards the same way? I might be kind of caught by this really hot guy's butt. Like there might be something there that's not here. Oh no, Sky Key, I've been called a walking tower. So let me give you some perspective on the Tower, actually, that has recently come to me. We do recognize this is probably the most devastating card in the deck, but we also recognize, and here's an interesting thing too, the lightning, and we see the lightning in both cases, but this lightning feels more direct. So I would see this more in this card than in this card. The lightning is enlightening. The lightning is enlightening. Here we have the crown coming off, indicating the end of an era. Not so over here. So there are some different things that may cause you to interpret differently, and that's okay. Wald Amberstone of the Tarot School once said to me very wisely, we trust the universe to bring the right querent with the right question to the right reader with the right deck at the right time. So whatever deck you're working with at the time is the right deck at that time. It may change your interpretation somewhat. Oh, I love this. So Jen says in Marchetti's deck, it looks like more it's internal forces. It does, like the lightning, it almost feels like it's exploding from the inside. Now, TJ says something really, really smart here. Somehow I see the Tower as freedom. Yeah, there's a lot of mythology around tower. You know, the idea of the tower as the falling tower, the Tower of Babel, that kind of thing. That is one tower archetype. But there are other reasons towers fall, and sometimes it is to free someone. Think about Rapunzel being freed from the tower. Think about Saint Barbara, who was caught in a tower and freed when God knocked the tower down. There's an archetype here. So, you know, it's a matter of perspective whether or not the tower falling is convenient for you in this moment. I think we're going to say the tower falling is always necessary, but it's a matter of perspective whether you like it or not. Gypsy Grounded in Reality, I am so sorry. I am actually booked after this. But check me out tomorrow. I'm pretty free tomorrow. I am so sorry. Could one tower cause another? I suppose. Yeah, Trey, it's hard for me to look at this card and not always associate it with disaster because of 9/11. Well, that was such an interesting day, right? Where at about 8 a.m. that morning Eastern Time, on the Tarot L Yahoo group, people doing their card of the day together, a lot of them pulled the tower that day. And about 50 minutes later, we all saw why. So yeah, that's very real. Yes, Rachel Pollack, along with two other people whose names are on the tip of my tongue, but I'm Evelyn Berger and Nicholas Feiberg, something. Yes, they wrote tarot for, I forget what it's called, but yes, it is in a book. I have the book and it's a good book. Yes. So, and this is a really good example of how the tower is not always bad. Could the crown being blown off be thought of as an aha moment, like suddenly smacking you in the head? Never thought of it that way, but it certainly could be, especially if that aha moment is going to cause you to change things. So yeah, I think it really could be. So how do we discover the many meanings of a tarot card? We think about its history. We think about its numbers. We think about its astrology. We think about our reaction to it. We think about it in the context of the question. We think about its name. We look at it in other decks. All of those things will lead us to that truth. Now, do we agree that the cards must all have solid meanings? Yes, we do. But those solid meanings are not the reading. I think that is the most important thing to think about, that when you're reading the book or the website or watching the video, the keywords and classic interpretations associated with the cards, that's not going to be your interpretation. Your interpretation is extrapolated from that based on all of these factors. Right, AM, exactly. There are two different tower archetypes within the same card. One, Tower of Babel, and then ultimately World Trade Center, but then also St. Barbara. Two different archetypes, same card. And this is why we study tarot, and this is why we get together to talk about the cards. Every single time I teach one of these classes, in person or online, I will hear something that I've never thought about before. And that will become part of my understanding of a particular card or technique. We are always growing as readers. Marion, my friend Sharon, a tarot newbie, was looking at the tower and emperor next to each other and saw the crown on the tower as the emperor's empire being destroyed because to her they looked the same. I love that. Like the visual clues of the cards are very real. Now, what if you're working with a deck that does not have a lot of visual clues? Well, you're not going to use those then. Same way that I don't use too many astrological clues because I'm not an astrologer. Use what you can. Yeah, AM, the interpretation is a moving thing, like time keeps moving on. So true. And let me show you an example of that is very, very clear how tarot grows to fit the times. When this was first created, no one had cars. And back when this deck was created, like 1910, the automobile, I think, was just being created, but most people didn't have them. Now, at least where I live, if you don't have a car, you're kind of screwed. And so the chariot has become the symbol for your car, your travel, and your transportation. It was always about travel and transportation, but it didn't have that tight connection to, oh my gosh, if your car situation is not right, things could get really bad. So yes, meanings change according to time, and that can happen on a very personal level as well. Let me tell you a story. Some of you have probably heard this story before, and I apologize. I'm old and repeat my stories sometimes, but I think sometimes they're worth repeating too. Right, AM. I grew up in NYC. Cars were a luxury to my social group and not as necessary. So the chariot may have had a different meaning to you in that time. And that goes along with what I'm about to share with you. I started my business in Putnam, Connecticut. That's in the northeast corner of Connecticut. And it was originally a mill town. And then the mills burned down and the area was struggling. The whole area was struggling. And then the casinos came. Foxwoods and Mohegan Sun, at the time, they were the world's largest casinos. It changed everything. Not Putnam County, though. Busy, thanks for being here. Not Putnam County. Putnam Town. Different county. Yeah. Connecticut. Yes, Putnam Antiques. In fact, yes, I worked at Antiques Marketplace for a while. Absolutely, yes. And had a shop. I had a shop right in downtown Putnam with all the antiques dealers. Yes, that's true. So during this time, as the casinos are being built, suddenly this card took up new meaning for me. When it came up with the Ace of Pentacles or the Three of Pentacles, I saw people getting jobs at the casino, and that was a huge thing because unemployment was rampant in the northeast corner of Connecticut at that time because of all the mills closing. Coming up with the devil, people developing gambling addictions. So even though this card, one of the things that's true about this card, it's always been about gambling. It's always been about risk taking. But for me in my practice, it took on this very specific aspect. Going to the casino on a date, working at the casino, gambling too much, marriage breaking up because of gambling. All of a sudden, this card took that on. And so that's something that's really important to recognize in your practice as well, that cards will take on meanings over time in your own practice. Oh, interesting, AM. You met a very good reader from Putnam. Maybe someone I know. Absolutely. Okay. So we are in like our last 6 minutes. The image that I really want you to think about is the idea that there are meanings that hold solid. And it's true, like if you're looking at Marseille versus Crowley versus Waite, you may have a different solid meaning, but as long as other people in your tradition have the same solid meaning, you're okay. But from there, you've got this solid meaning, like that's the root of the tree. But the branches of the tree can go just about anywhere, as long as we stay rooted in the solid meaning and have an understanding of why we're seeing what we're seeing in the moment. It's good. Oh, Sky Key, that's a lot of coin in that devil's butt cheek. You are not kidding. Hey, Ruby Elixir, good to see you. Thank you for being here, Robin. It was so nice to see you on Sunday. Appreciate you. All right. Oh, GM Marcus, I answered your question. Good. Good. And now is the time. We're in our last 5 minutes. So now is the time for questions. Is there a card that you don't have a handle on? Is there a card that you don't have enough meanings for? Do you have questions about how to find that context? And, you know, I think that there are two pieces here. One is in study, like we're doing right now. Keep your tarot notebook, keep your journal, keep yourself open and curious with the cards. But then there's also in the time and space of the reading. Now, I did promise I would say, oh, Seven of Swords. Yeah, can do. I did say that I would say what to do in the circumstance of, you know, a bunch of meanings for the cards, but you don't know which meanings you should use in the reading. Say them all. Whether you're reading for yourself or reading for someone else, say them all. And as you're saying them all, it will become really clear. And if you're working with a client and you're really not sure, you can say, you know, this card can be this, 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 and this. What applies? And that works too. That works too. Okay. Oh, Adrija, I see your question. And yeah, I cannot do it right now, and I am so sorry. Text me and let's work it out. I'm so sorry, but also not surprised. And here we are talking about the Seven of Swords. Take that for what you, yeah, take that. Okay, so there's a few thoughts here that the Seven of Swords can be confusing. And here's what I'm going to say. Like, I think the confusing part is like when Eden Gray called it the Thieves card. Oh, Ultraviolet Pisces, thank you so much. When Eden Gray called it the Thieves card, I think that was a disservice to us. Because really, I'm going to say my root on this card is trust versus lack of trust. Can I trust this? Should I trust this? Is this trustworthy? Where does my trust lie? Those are the questions here. Now, I would agree that when we talk about the branches on this tree, it's not a very bushy, branchy tree. This one really is not. Sky Key is not Robin. Ruby Elixir is Robin. Audrey. Crowley calls this card futility, which opened it up for me. Right, we could see overconfidence because you're trusting something you shouldn't be trusting, right? Because what is confidence? It's trust, right? So here, I think, and like, you know, typically I am questioning whether I should trust or not. Here, I'm more able to trust, generally speaking. So this is a good example because it does remind us that some of the trees of tarot cards will have very lots of branches and others not as many. Others not as many. Here we go. Marion K. Tarot. Seven of Swords is the moon in Aquarius, and the moon is uncomfortable in Aquarius. And could we say this is a card of some discomfort? I could use the word discomfort for this card. I absolutely could. So this class is of a type of class that I sort of call context classes. Sometimes I do it with Venn diagrams. Sometimes I keep it very tight with just we're talking about reversals. But I do these kinds of classes a lot. If you look at my playlist, replay, you're going to see a lot of classes about context, about Venn diagrams, and about reversals. Check them out. Sky Key, Marta vibes on the Seven of Swords. Well, that makes sense because I'm exaggerating my discomfort for my own benefit. Yeah, that makes sense. So Think about a tarot card as a tree that is rooted in a meaning that you understand, that can branch out in a reading in many ways. Hey, Soul Fire Angel, good to see you. We are just about to end our class. So, my friends, the really good news is we kept the stream. There shall be celebration in the kingdom and continued work to make sure that we are able to continue to offer streams that are quality, both in terms of what we're doing, in terms of content, but also in terms of your viewing pleasure. So thank you so much for being here. Special shout out to the members, the moderators. A big shout out to the tech people on my end who have been working to make this work. I appreciate all of you so much. My plan is to be back Friday at noon with your Friday weekly wrap up. Fingers crossed for that. And if you like this kind of class, and I think you do, we will be doing many more of these. It's hard, I think, because the more we expand into the branches of a card, the more confusing it feels. But trust your knowledge, trust your intuition, and trust the veracity. For example, if you're doing a reading for yourself and you're like, okay, I know that's true because I've experienced it, that's going to help. If you're doing a reading for someone else, same thing. Evidential. Look for the evidence. My friends, I appreciate you so much. Happy birthday, Jenna Perkins. Yeah, I love that. AM, pick what sticks. There it is. There it is. Where do you feel it in your body? You know, that's another one. Sometimes, like, you feel it. So pay attention there. So this is obviously a topic that will be continued forever and ever. And I thank you so much for being here. Take really good care. Have a great evening. See you soon.